Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam.
For the innovators, the dreamers, the risk takers, independent workers who keep our neighborhoods thriving, Connector Care from the Massachusetts Health Connector has plans for every lifestyle and budget.
Having access to affordable healthcare is for everyone in our community.
Connector Care plans help more people save on healthcare that covers all their needs. Find out if you qualify for Connector Care. Visit mahealthconnector.org or call 1-877-MA-ENROLL.
Good morning. Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam.
Look, I'm still recovering from the, why does it sound like that? All right, I think that's a little bit better. I'm still recovering from the snowstorm yesterday. Good morning, everybody. Today is Monday, January 8th, 2024. I really don't like the way that sounds. Anyway, I'm not stressing audio today. It is Mental Health Monday. It is the first Monday of 2000 and actually last Monday was, but the first official business day Monday, Mental Health Monday here in the Java Cafe. And today at 9:30, we're going to talk with former city councilor Kendra Lara. And if you have kept up with anything going on in the media with our women of color who are trying to lead, who are progressive, who are addressing things like lack of equity and things like that, they are under a lot of scrutiny. We've seen things about Councilor Lara in the paper. We'll talk about that minimally, but in the 9:30 half-hour segment, we're going to talk about the impact of mental health in civic leadership. But let's go into the Java Cafe while we're waiting. Look who is back from their wonderful honeymoon. She said, unfortunately, I'm glad you guys got back safely. I was checking in with my brother yesterday to make sure you guys were good, even though we didn't wind up getting that snowstorm until I think the real snow started at 11 something. Just need to fix something in this compressor. Hold on for 1 second. I think I know what I'm doing. Hold on. Dynamic Roadcaster. It's definitely not condensed. Hold on, y'all. Let's see if that one is better. That one's not better. Not better. Oh, that's a little bit better. All right, we sound a little bit better, y'all. Had to get some things together, but I'm glad the Davises are back. Sharon Cornelius, good morning. Good to see you in the room this morning. Opal Thompson, good morning to you. Good to see you in the room. Also, Dr. Drumright from Nashville, good to see you in the morning. In the room this morning. Mama Java, good morning to you. You guys keep my youngest sisters in your prayers. They both had issues with their health this past weekend. One is home and doing well, and one I have to check on today as she's getting some test results today. So please keep my sisters and Mama Java in prayer. Their names are Nakia and Tamisha. It is greatly appreciated. Pastor Marion, good morning to you. Good to see you in the room as well. I think I got everybody. Nicole, good morning. Good to see you in the room. What's up, Real Java? Good to see you in the room. Good morning. Good morning. Nicole, I saw something that you posted that was funny. I can't remember what it was, but good to see you all in the room this morning. Listen, this is Civic Engagement Week. And so this week we have a few folks that are going to come in and chat with us tomorrow. As of right now, it is just me, but I'm in the process of working on getting a date for City Councilor Tanya Anderson. She will join us soon. She said, just let her know. Congrats. And what did I do? No, what? Did I see? What are you about to drop? And what did I see? I didn't really get online yesterday. So Real Boston Media is saying that congrats are in order. Did I see? I did not see it. Oh, the sister from Massachusetts, Oye Dibri. I think I got that right. I saw that last night. Congratulations to her. She got that Golden Globe Award last night. So shout out to this Black queen from Massachusetts. Real, I thought she was talking about me. I was going to say, what the heck done happened now? Can we say happy birthday, a belated happy birthday to the birthday boy? We shouted him out yesterday. Our forever manager, DJ, setup person, friend, just good brother. Newt Johnson is in the room. He turned 65 years old this weekend. I tried to keep a straight face. Love you, bro. Congratulations on all that's going on in your life. Tashad from Boston Wild Black. Good morning. Good to see you in the morning. Can't talk this morning. Good to see you in the room this morning. So Civic Engagement Week. A couple of things are going on this week. The mayor's state of the city is tomorrow. And so that will be taking place. I have all plans to go, but they done predicted another storm. They said it's going to be rain and windy and whatnot, and it don't take much. Y'all can ask Real. It don't take much for me not to go. But the mayor's state of the city address is on tomorrow. On Wednesday, the Black Men and Boys Commission is having their public meeting taking place on Wednesday, I believe, at 6 p.m. And you can go to the city's website, put the Black Men and Boys Commission, and get the information about that. Pastor Marion is saying happy birthday to Newt. So is Anthony and Aaron as well. Then on Saturday, as of right now, I messed up and double booked. We are scheduled to attend the Civic Engagement Summit. We had the director of civic organizing on last week to talk about that event. And I heard some chatter this weekend. Their slots are full. There were only 200 slots, and right here in real time, we challenged them to figure out a way with the venue to open up more slots for those community members that want to attend. And so I haven't heard anything of yet. Hopefully we will hear something soon about them availing more slots for those from the community that want to come in. Donna, good morning. I keep telling y'all, if y'all don't comment, Mama Java's going to let us know that y'all are in the room. Donna, good to see you. Excuse me, y'all. It's been, let me keep it 100. Ever since the Friday after the event we had with the Bennett family at RCC, I have really tried to be on some like relaxation and chill. And shout out to ONS Roxbury, who's watching over on Instagram. Good to see you guys in the room. I got to go look outside to see if I need to bother ONS to see if our streets are good. I live in an old area of Roxbury, and the streets are like this big. But shout out to ONS that's listening over on Instagram. D Lavender out of Baltimore, Maryland. Good to see you in the room this morning. A soulful songstress in herself. Donna, again, good morning to you. Good to see you in the room. Newt Mama Java says, happy birthday, baby. Real says to Mama Java, going to make y'all feel like y'all been ghosting her for weeks. Yo, Newt, you better say hi to Mama Java before you get in trouble. But back to the Civic Engagement Week. This Saturday, we hope to be at the Civic Engagement Summit to cover that. And listen, why is civic engagement so important? It's important nationally and it's important locally. Let's start at the national level. And then Jaleel, what's up, brother? Good to see you in the room. Was the red, black intentional? Oh, of course. That's every day, brother. Jaleel, you of all people, because I know you in the fashion and whatnot. And, all time. Red, black, and white all the time. Aaron's trying to get me out of it, but we working on it. Pam, good morning. Good to see you in the room as well. Civic engagement. Why is civic engagement so important? If you're paying attention to what's going on nationally, there is a real concern that Uncle Joe Biden, will not, he's not doing well among young voters and among black voters. I get it. Some of his policies are not immediately pointing to improvement of a direct, obvious improvement to our quality of life, similar to Barack Obama. There were policies that came out and they had an impact on us and trickled down. And so there's a lot of reasons that a lot of people are displeased with Biden. Some people, some are really moving in ageism. Let's keep that 100. Some people are really concerned about his age, his cognitive, ability and things like that. And so civic engagement is important for a few reasons. Nationally, I need Black and brown people to start understanding that what's on the line in this presidential election this year is not just Joe Biden and not just he who used to occupy the White House, who's trying to get back in. Let's not forget that 3 years ago, yesterday, the other one attempted insurrection. What's on the line, and when it comes to civic engagement on a national level, is our democracy is on the line. If you have paid attention to anything in politics, in the economy, anything that is going on that has to do with government in this country, since 2016, we have someone that really wants to be a dictator. He's the fifth one since we've had presidents, and he's the worst. There was Nixon, a couple of other folks. I was watching CNN last night and they were talking about it. And what's on the line right now is democracy. He who used to occupy the White House is a good marketer, and he panders to us. And he did that. He won over the one that, raps and got the sneakers out and all that. Won him over. Had him saying some crazy stuff. There was some speculation about Cube. And Cube saw some sort of economic development coming out of he who used to occupy the White House's mouth. My brother, my sister, civic engagement is important because not only can you go on the internet and listen to sound bites and different things like that, but you need to stay civically engaged nationally and locally. One of our best congressmen that ever came from this state and this district was Congressman Tip O'Neill. And there was this saying that he coined: all politics are local. Someone actually said this on CNN yesterday. It is up to the local elections that really have a lot of the direct impact on our quality of life. Streets, schools, water, how police are funded, how they engage with community. Civic engagement is so important to equity. Civic engagement is so important to Black Lives Matter. Civic engagement is important to women's rights. Civic engagement is important to LGBTQ plus rights. Civic engagement is important to ADA, American Disabilities Act compliance. Let me pause there for a minute. There's a lot of talk about equity, and often we forget those with disabilities. They need to be a large part of the conversation. Those that are dealing with addiction, when we talk about equity, need to be a large part of the conversation. So civic engagement is hugely, hugely important. And to Asia's point, not just this election, but all elections. But Asia, I would venture to say that you would agree that this one has a lot of future implications. If that Chester Cheeto man gets back in the White House, America as we've known it is gone. And so to Asia's point, every election is important. Asia says, I need more folks engaged in this election. We can't afford to be sheep and sleepwalk through. Listen, Pastor Marion responds and says, Biden might be older, but you don't want the liar, blasphemous narcissist. So, Pastor, tell us how you really feel. We don't want him back in office. And there is so much so that has to take place in order to ensure that yet right now, Biden is the presumed nominee for the Democratic Party. There's been talk around whether he needs to step aside and let Kamala run. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into that, but there's some concerns about Kamala as well. And so I'm not going to highlight the concerns, but what I'm going to say is our democracy is on the line. So on January 8th, 2024, as these local states and whatnot are getting ready to caucus, we need to pay attention. If you hear about a caucus in your area here, and let's deviate a little bit. Now, in Massachusetts, we used to take for granted that we are a Democratic state. Though we have Republican governors, our House is pretty much Democrat. In 2016, 17 rather, you know, I was quite surprised because in Dorchester, in Upham's Corner, there was a Trump rally. And out in parts of the western part of the state, rural areas, what some of us affectionately call the W towns, we cannot take for granted in Massachusetts that Trump can't win the state. We can't sit back on our laurels, going back to my other point, and presume Biden got it. My vote doesn't count. There's this adage that I heard on CNN again yesterday of we're sitting on the couch. There's nothing that I'm not going to go too far into that. We have to get out and we have to participate in the vote. I'm going to show you a video in a few minutes, too, in reference to President Biden. He knows that he's in trouble with us, and he's going to Emmanuel Church. Let me get up here a little bit because Anthony done put a whole dissertation, Jesus. We have a much better opportunity to work in partnership with the Biden administration than he who used to occupy the White House administration. We need to ensure our folks don't get caught up in the figurehead at the top and realize the teams are the ones that get the job done. And we'd prefer to work with the Biden administration and team. And I promise, come on, Anthony, where's the rest? Come on, Anthony, I'm waiting. But that is the thing that is so interesting. And you learn this being civically engaged. Will every politician, will every policymaker and its constituency always agree? No. But where there's commonality around values and improvement on an equitable quality of life, we need to get behind those that are more malleable, that can be bent, that can see the human benefit of moving equity. Simple as that. Anthony, I'm waiting on the second part. Oh, maybe that was finished. Maybe he was just finished. Biden administration and team, and I promise. Okay, maybe that was just it. But Anthony makes a valid point that we have to be. Politics is very strategic, and we have to pay attention. Getting back to the point, and councilor Lara is coming in just about 7 or 8 minutes. Not to deviate, but it has something to do with this. Do you all not understand that there is a whole calculated plan, strategy to remove DEI and work toward equity? One of the greatest demonstrations of this impactful and effective plan was the force in everything that was done by this guy and others in media, Christopher Rofu, or whatever his name is, that he actually has an article in the Wall Street Journal about how they're doing it. We have to stay civically engaged. And to Anthony's point, it can't be the figurehead. It can't be, back up a little bit. A few minutes ago, I was getting ready to say that Biden hasn't sparked anything with us. Some of us tend to be, you got to catch us. You got to be charismatic. Obama's policies were he was a black man, but Obama was charismatic. He knew how to work the room and work the crowd. Don't believe me? Now, I think I got it together. I'm getting ready to sit up here and talk trash and hope it don't mess up, Jesus. But President Obama knew what to do in situations. I think this is going to work, y'all. Y'all pray. Here's an example of what President Obama's charisma was able to do in one of the country's worst times after the Charlestown shooting. And here it is here. Somebody please be in the background and let me know if they can hear the volume, Jesus. Quick, I'm getting y'all's attention. Can you hear the volume? Here we go. Mama.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
Oh, well, get that out of there. Y'all see I screen recorded. Obama had charisma. Side note, we got the audio fixed. Y'all know I was tripping out last week. That was the type of charisma President Obama had. Now, President Biden is on his way to Emmanuel Church today. Bakari Sellers said this the other night, or last night. Joe Biden better not get up there and try to sing. That's not your area of anointment. What he is able to do is resonate his raw emotion and feelings of things that we go through as humans. That resonates with a lot of people, but it's not enough. All right. And so there is a responsibility on the Democratic Party. There's a responsibility on the campaign. I understand that one of Biden's chiefs of staff or one of his high-level deputy directors is leaving the administration to go over to the campaign because there's not enough fire in there. They have a responsibility, but guess what? We do too. First thing we got to do is vote, as Asiya said, in every election. But it's not just the voting. It's being a part of your parent and teacher association. It's participating in local elections. It's paying attention to initiatives and things like what Dalita and SEIU, SBJ, Dalita, put it in there. Dalita, rather, put it in there. When they are getting initiatives out, fight for 15, the minimum wage. We have to be engaged, and not just engaged, but that engagement includes gathering information here from the paper, yes, legacy, major, media outlets as well. But there's another piece to civic engagement. I don't want to get too far off. Dalita, thank you for the clarity. SEIU 32. I was almost right. 32 BJ. They are very much active in something that's going on right now. A couple of years ago, you all know that I was supportive of a movement to keep rideshare drivers independent. And there was a lot of pushback. There is now a compromise through folks like Dalita and others to where, okay, whether they stay independent or not, they need a union as drivers. I'm like, okay, that's a good compromise. Keep the independence and they can organize as a union. You may not know that that is going on if you're not civically engaged. And what, when they're a ballot issue, here I'm going off a whim. Civic engagement is not just the candidates and voting for candidates. It's also ballot issues. I want to shout out my queen sister that I just saw in the room. Bia, good to see you in the room. Good to see you. It's also ballot questions. Right now, the legislature here in Massachusetts is weighing in on what questions will be placed on the ballot. Y'all remember all these question ones and question twos about nursing, about minimum wage. There were a few other things. Some years ago, Massachusetts was historic in not healthcare for all, but universal healthcare. And we have to be sure that we stay up to date with information. I see our counselor coming in right now. So I'm getting ready to bring her in while I got this fire going on because counselor, good morning. I'm sorry. I did not notice that you were just taking a bite or a sip of something, but good morning. I could take you out for a second and go on my rant. Good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing?
I am doing well. I'm happy to be here with you. How are you?
I am doing well. Now I'm going to ask you again. How are you doing? Because there's a level of freedom and release that you've experienced since last Monday.
Yeah. It's been a gift, honestly.
And you look, I mean, you always look good, but you look wonderful. You're radiating. Is this someone coming off of you, Jesus? Okay. So first of all, let me back up.
Mhm.
I was just coming off a little I know when Charlie Baker said this to our congresswoman, he got in trouble. I'll say it for myself. I was coming off a rant about
Mhm.
the importance of civic engagement, naming
Yes.
what's going on at the national level, and then still understanding, as Tip O'Neill said, all politics are local. And
Mhm.
so just being engaged about what's going on. I know that, our current president is not, the favorite. And I've been talking about democracy is actually
Mhm.
on the line this election. So just to give you some context of why you came in, and Real Boston Media agrees that you look wonderful and radiant this morning. Council, let me back up. And first of all, I jokingly said, how you doing, implying that, you don't have the weight there's a good weight, and then there's some other weight we're going to get into of being a counselor, being a leader in civic
Mhm.
engagement. How are you as Kendra doing? Kendra, the mom, Kendra, the partner, Kendra, the community resident, human. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing really well. There was a lot of transitions in my life in the last few months. Some of the transitions were very public, and others were a little bit more private. Namely, that my son has started a new school, which we're really excited about. And I have really been able to take advantage of the time that I have to show up for him, to show up for myself, to rest, to think intentionally about my future, how I want to serve my community, how I want to continue to serve my neighborhood. And so, when I say that it's been a gift, it really has been a blessing. I think that, particularly being an elected official, and nothing stops. Everything is always going at 100 miles an hour, and it's really difficult to lead and be intentional in the way that you're leading when you're always responding to the next thing. And so I'm really grateful for the time to slow down and think really intentional about what service looks like for me coming forward.
Absolutely. I want to jump into a couple of things in the beginning because I know the trolls on Twitter are watching. So let's just get like I do with the mayor. Let's just get this out the way.
Yeah.
Talked about it. It was in the media. There was a situation with you driving, not insured, license, blah, blah, blah. All of that. Some things there are just, you know, irrefutable, but then there's some context. And I know last time we talked that because it was in litigation, you couldn't give context. Floor is open. Anything you want to say now that you're not an elected official, and I believe it's resolved. Anything you want to say there so we can move into some other things.
Yeah, well, it's partially resolved. It's not completely
Okay.
resolved yet, but I think, I want to say something about what you said about some of the things were irrefutable, right? There was information that wasn't irrefutable, that
Okay.
was presented publicly in the media as
Yes,
being
ma'am.
irrefutable, right?
Yeah.
So the car not having insurance, the speed that I was going, what I was doing, those were all things that were false, that were not true. And they were reported as being factual, right? It was reported that I was going double the speed limit when I was going 27 out of 25. It was reported that I was driving a vehicle that was uninsured when the car was in fact uninsured, right? It was reported that the car was unregistered. So I was driving a borrowed vehicle,
Mhm.
and it had just lapsed. The owner of the car had just forgotten for a few weeks to like renew the registration, and so
Well,
it
who
was
is in that?
it was, things that were definitely not irrefutable. I think.
And I want to clarify, counsel, with all due as a friend and folks that are watching, um, what I meant by irrefutable was you was driving, there was an incident. And so those sort of things, and thank you for the clarity. And we'll talk about this in February during Black Media Week.
Yeah.
Media is very, and we'll get into that when we get into the mental health of this, but thank you for clarifying. And I wanted to clarify what I meant about irrefutable, that there was something that happened, but you just gave clarity.
Yeah, and I think, for the purpose of being clear, there was an issue with some paperwork that I submitted to the RMV where it took them 10 months to process a letter that I sent them. And so at the time that I got into the car accident, my license was still suspended, even though I had already taken care of all of my tickets. I had paid everything that I needed to pay. I had submitted all the paperwork that I needed to submit. It was still showing up as suspended in the system at the time that I got into the car accident. And, somebody pulled up in front of me. I got into a car accident. And so I think that those, for me, those are the facts. I got into a car accident while I was driving without a license. And I think that it was obviously a mistake that I wish I wouldn't have made. I think that if given the opportunity to make a different decision in terms of where, if I'm getting behind the wheel or not while I was going through that process, I would have I would have hoped that I could have garnered some level of support for transporting myself, transporting my kid, who has special needs and can't get on the bus and can't ride the train, right? So there's like so much background and context to, why people make the decisions that they make. And I think that as public officials, people say that that you should be held to a higher standard, which I feel I am absolutely being held to a higher standard. But I think a lot of the struggles, particularly as Black women, that we have don't go away magically because you're elected into public office.
So that's a good transition, counselor. Let's go, and I'm gonna still always call you counselor. Let's go there because you named earlier that it never stops. That's on the job part. You just named that you're a mom. You're a mom of a son with unique learning abilities. And you're a Black Afro-Latina woman. Very interesting dynamics. And so this week we're kicking off Civic Engagement Week talking about the mental health impact of everything you just named.
Yeah.
How do you handle, counselor? Because we've talked before, I'm aware. If I were to ask you to describe mental health for those in civic leadership in your demographic, describe that for me in one word and then give me context.
One word to describe mental health for people who are civic leaders?
With your demographic, either woman or woman of color.
I think the word inaccessible is is the word that I would use.
Inaccessible.
Yeah. I'm a firm believer that, I think that when people think about mental health, they think about taking care of self. They think, are you individually going to therapy? Are you taking the time that you need? Are you going for a vacation? But our mental well-being is actually directly connected to to our community.
Yep.
And how we are being cared for and how deep in community we are. And when you are a single mom, like, for example, me, Councilor Anderson, and Councilor Julia they're the three Black women on the council, three of the Black women on the council, single parents. And you're also an elected official and you're being expected to respond to all of these things, not just at home, but at work. Where is the time to be in community? Where is the time to care for yourself? Where is the time to really make sure that you are taking care not only of your personal responsibilities and your work responsibilities, but also your own personal well-being? And so when I talk about the mental health being inaccessible, it's that how do you access it? How do you access it without a deep, deep community support? Now, I feel like for the most part, there's been a group chat since I started running for office with a lot of people in my community that's just called Kendra Care. Because I decided to run for public office, people in my community who are organizers and leaders and nonprofit organizations were just like, we know what you're about to get into. So let's create a system around you so that we can support you while you are in public office. And so it takes a lot of community infrastructure to support a person of color, a Black woman, to be in public office that I don't necessarily think that we figured out, right? If most people in public office are typically white men, typically people who are married, who have support with the children at home, who have some kind of, how do I say this, safety net, right? Safety net in whether it be with community, whether it be with family. How do we create those safety nets for people who don't have them? We're coming from a very different setup when you're coming into public office from our communities. And so I think that we need to think about what support infrastructures we create for our leaders when they're coming into public office, particularly.
It's absolutely right. ASEA says that I feel people of color electeds or electeds of color need more of a team and support to mentor them, because that is absolutely important. One of the other things that you mentioned, well, one of the things I wanted to mention was, here of late, I get phone calls here and there. Hey, Jimmy, I'm thinking about running for office. Two things I say to them. I'll say the latter first is that understand that dynamics of our relationship are going to change. You are now becoming a candidate.
Yeah.
And there's just, some conversations might be very different. You as a candidate. But the second thing I ask them, counselor, is, have you considered the mental health impact of everything that's going to come with you putting yourself out there. And so thank you for sort of affirming. So when people ask me, that's one of the first questions I say, have you considered the impact not only on yours, but your families as well? Because we got family members and whatnot that, you know, that they go hard for us. Some will pray and some will pull up, and then some will do both, you know. And so let me back up a little bit. All that you named, counselor, is sort of regular. White electeds, white men go through that. Now let's pack on all of the trolling, all of the Lord have mercy, toxic masculinity. Let's, with all of the things that you had to endure with threatening, nasty emails, when you talk about mental health being inaccessible, with everything that regular, just non-women of color electeds deal with, to pack on that other stuff, is it even more inaccessible? How does that part play on your mental health as a human?
Well, so there are a couple of things. One, I'm of the generation, I grew up on the internet. So the trolling and the stuff on Twitter is, you know, that stuff, I feel like one of the things that was the most difficult for me, and I'm not, you know, I'll speak for myself, I'm not sure, is that as an elected official, you so often see yourself publicly. You see people talking about you, you're on the news, you're in the newspapers, and very seldom do you actually see yourself. Everybody was writing about me, talking about me on the news, and I didn't see myself in any of that. Who I actually was, what was actually happening, none of it was there. And so it's really difficult to not see yourself, even though you're everywhere. And I want to say something because I think that this was particularly visible in my office, is that the majority of my staff are young Black men.
Okay.
And thinking about that impact on them, right? You know, when I go into my office, it's not these people are, oh, I'm going through something, you know, let me take a deep breath. We're going through a hard time right now. It's all of the young Black men in my office who are like, damn, how do we continue doing our work? How can we continue doing this? They're feeling deflated. They're feeling attacked. And they're wondering what happens. And they you know, they want to be in positions of leadership. Do I want to do this? So I think for me, the most important thing is that if we do not create these infrastructures for people who are in public office to really have support that they need, the public support, and I'll say more about this later, the public support that they need, how do we expect anybody else to come after us?
That could be a whole nother, because intentional relationships for intentional succession definitely need to be in place across the board, in churches, elected officials, especially electeds of color. We can't have one foot in the grave and one foot in a seat trying to hold on. Your greatest sign of a legacy is who you pass the torch to, and they continue in their own way the work that you started. I want to name something, counselor, that all of you, not all of you, a majority of our queens do, is I'm asking about you, and you went right to the kings. You know, so that's a whole nother piece that our women and our Black women are known for, because they always go right back to taking care of the others. And so I just wanted to name that. That public support infrastructure, if you could wave a wand, snap a finger, and it be in place, what does a public infrastructure support system look like?
I'll use an example. I'll use myself as an example. When I got into the car accident, I can't tell you how many phone calls I got. I mean, in the span of 6 months, hundreds from people. Everybody was incredibly supportive. Everybody understood. They knew what was going on. I became the poster child for people who had been driving without a license because the RMV somehow didn't do what they were supposed to do. And everybody was calling me on the phone. Oh, and everybody's calling me on the phone, telling me how, oh, this happened to me, or X, Y, and Z. And I was really appreciative. And I also didn't, you know, what would have been useful to combat some of the isolation that you feel when you're in the middle of these media firestorms, would have been for people to talk publicly about those things. I didn't need private phone calls. I don't need you to tell me that this is something that you also went through, or that this happens to everybody. I know that. I need to feel like our community is showing up publicly for us. Because what happens when we don't show up publicly for our people is that we create the idea that they're not protected and that they're not cared for, and therefore that they can be targets indiscriminately, can become targets of the Boston Herald, of the right-wing trolls, of the so on and so forth, because we're not showing up. And so you're gonna know that my people are protected, right? Whether it's Lee, my chief of staff, whether it's Michael, whether it's anybody who works for me, anybody who's in my community, anybody who I care and love for, you are going to know that they're protected and that they're off limits. Similar thing for, my family, my child, and so on and so forth. I don't think that particularly in politics, and it's because we don't want to be seen as being stuck in the weeds. We're scared. Oh no, I don't want to get involved in the mess.
Define a little bit in layman's terms what you mean by stuck in the weeds. That you're dealing with life? That you're human?
Well, I think for a lot of leaders, and I think particularly elected officials, they don't want to take a stance on things that are messy, that present messy or present quote unquote problematic, to be in support of their fellow leaders, or whether it be elected officials, whether it be community leaders in the city. People just kind of they're just like, oh no, there's something else happening, and they want to ignore it. They don't really want to show up for it. Look what's happening to Councilor Anderson right now. The Boston Herald they have picked their target. And I think in a moment that we are seeing people radicalized because of the genocide that's happening in Gaza, we're seeing people completely radicalized. We're seeing anti-Semitism rise. We're seeing Islamophobia on the rise. We saw where this neighbor killed this 6-year-old boy because within a week of what he was seeing in the media, the little boy was a Muslim, and he showed up to his house and killed this 6-year-old kid. What is it going to take? Are we going to wait for something tragic to happen to one of our leaders until we collectively say that this behavior is unacceptable, that we are here to protect them, and that it's time for us to start standing up publicly against what's happening? Listen, these folks were sitting outside of Mayor Wu's house for how long? Months? And the electeds of color, we put out a letter of support. Everybody was very clear and very vocal about how that was unacceptable. They swatted the mayor's house on Christmas.
And then a couple of days later, ordered a pizza. Like, come on, man.
What is it going to take? What is it going to take for us to see the woman of color mayor, the Muslim city councilor
that speaks Spanish? I just have to always throw that in there. A woman of color mayor that speaks Spanish. That pisses them. Sorry, go ahead. I
think we have to start taking what's happening serious. I think we're seeing what happened at Harvard with Claudine Gay. She's getting death threats in her family. We are not taking what we are seeing and what's happening to women of color who are in public office, not just in Boston, but across the country. We're not taking it seriously.
What is so interesting, and I'm going to say this with the balance of still lifting our women, is it's not just women of color. With all due respect, because of you all stepping up and leading and are a lot of the face of the leadership around DEI work, you, Ayanna, and others, with all due, it's you all and the undercurrent of DEI. Well, that has the word equity in it, but equity. Yeah. That is the undercurrent. And because you all step up, and because you all lead, and because you're passionate, and because you know how to get stuff done, you become now the target. I don't know if you heard of this whole Christopher Rufo or whoever, the guy in the wall. I'm about to post the article so folks can be aware that there is an all-out calculated plan to destroy DEI. And part of, I'm getting this in real time, part of DEI is ensuring that queens and women and those on the spectrum of gender or whatever get equity to be able to be in places to lead. How do you still function, counselor, with that knowledge? And I'm going somewhere with asking you like that. With that knowledge, I have this saying, awareness is bliss. Ignorance is bliss, and awareness is stressful AF. I won't say what that means. What keeps you in this place of still fighting, despite all that fights you?
It's a good question. That is what our people deserve. That's what our people deserve.
Go deeper.
This is
Ancestors, present, future. What?
This is what everybody. This is everybody who came before us, who put us here, deserve the fight. Our ancestors, just like our descendants, and the people who are here right now who are struggling, they deserve our rigor and our commitment. They deserve for us to continue to do this work. The thing that keeps me going is that in spite of what's happening, one of the things that I realized coming into public office after being an organizer is that we're winning. We're actually winning, and we're winning in really beautiful ways.
And can you stay there for a minute? Because with all this doom and gloom, let's how are we winning, Counselor? Come on.
I mean, we're the strides that we've made, everything that we've been able to do around environmental justice, around economic justice, around housing. And it's not just in politics. The organizing work that people are doing on the ground, the community land trust, we just purchased 114 units in East Boston, right? Like there's so much work that is happening because people on the ground, the people who are struggling, are mobilizing. They're organizing, they're doing political education, they are showing up. The work that we do as elected officials is it's the aftermath of all of the organizing. People organize for generations and then they come to us and we say, yes, yeah, and we say, yes, we're gonna do that. Right? That's what happens. And so when you see things happening in elected office, I want us to know that there are generations, thousands and hundreds of people in our community who have come before us. And I saw this a lot when I was a street worker. People always talked, people, who wanted to kind of capitalize on this, they would talk often about, with the Black Lives Matter protest.
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of the founders of the local chapter. And they said, well, why aren't you out there protesting like this for the shootings in the neighborhood? And I started doing that work after I had already been a street worker. And I would turn around religiously to those people and I would say, where have you been, under a rock? Do you know how much work we're doing in this community when it comes to gang violence and gun violence? Do you know how many walks we have, how many organizations we have servicing these people? And so I want us to really anchor ourselves in remembering that, like, we have agency in our communities. We are exercising that agency and we are winning in spite of what the newspaper is reporting, in spite of what is on TV. Our people are winning. And because we're winning, that is why we are under attack. And so the way that I keep myself going is by reminding myself that it's not my job to finish the work, but I also cannot abandon it. And so if I get us 3 steps forward and somebody else takes over in the next generation, that is enough. That is sufficient. And we're going to keep going because that is what my son deserves. That is what our children deserve. That's what the people in our neighborhoods, that's what everybody who lives in public housing deserves. And that's what the people who put so much of their blood, sweat, and tears that came before us, they deserve for us to keep going. And so that is my intention. And that is the invitation to people. Do not despair. The media is going to put out there what they think is going to get them the clicks, the stories that they think are going to help really break down little by little the bench that we've built when it comes to political leadership and the progress that we've made. And we can't let them do that.
I definitely appreciate that because, as I said a few minutes ago, when you started to name that we are winning, I believe it's important to name the issue, but we also, and it's funny because I say my community meetings are like 25% name the issue, and then 75% of it is how are we going to resolve it and what is the asset base. So again, Queen, thank you for bringing us back and reminding us, because, and this will segue into a little other pieces, you named being under attack. This is James's layman Boston Poly level assessment. Folks like you and Ricardo were making a lot of progress, and Rachel were making a lot of progress. Excuse me. We're making a lot of progress. I want to ask this right. We're still treating you like a counselor and not. Do you feel that that work of DEI and equity is being targeted? Let me frame it like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's being targeted. I think that's obvious. The problem is, are we going to let them? I think that's really the question. Is it, of course they're targeting it.
They did. I'm sorry. To some extent,
we did. Yeah. I mean, listen, I tell people a lot when we have these conversations, particularly as I've been reflecting on President Gay's tenure at Harvard.
Mhm.
Is it worth it to be the first? I was the first Black woman to represent my district. Is it worth it to be the first and to be, the recipient, to carry all of that for these institutions that have historically really not looked out for our communities? What do we do? How do we do it? Right? Because it's important. Her tenure as president had the potential to make a difference in the way that that school functioned and in the impact that that university had on the people around us. And who do we sacrifice for that progress? Are we going to sacrifice our Black women for that progress? I don't think it needs to be either or. I don't think that we have to sacrifice ourselves and be martyrs
Mm-mm.
for the purpose of being vocal, loud supporters of the things that are going to benefit Black and Brown people. But that is going to require that we have our community behind us and that we have a foundation of care and support when we are in places of public office.
I just wanted to hold space for the fact that you said something. You just went past it real quick, but there was a lot there. Is it worth it being the first? That's a lot of weight to carry. As a human, as a woman, as a Black woman, and with understanding the weight that comes with it, I just want to say personally, as a Black man, as a Black gay man, thank you, because it is. I come from, my origin is from District 6 over in Heath Street. And so, and I just want to also name, while we're talking about that, give you space to pay homage to a matriarch that I've known since I was, oh God, and friends of family, to Miss Martin. Anything that you would like to say there,
Yeah,
Council?
absolutely. So I'm not from Mildred Haley. I grew up on Boylston Street in JP. I'm an Eggleston Square girl. But when I was a youth worker, I worked at Family Service of Greater Boston, and I ran a youth program at Mildred Haley, and became a trauma responder, like a first responder for the trauma team in the neighborhood. Mildred Haley had one of the first in the city. And I grew up under the leadership of Miss Haley and Miss Martin.
Mm-hmm.
They when it comes to community work, to being a servant, they taught me everything that I know. And when I decided to run for public office, I remember sitting in Miss Martin's living room and talking to her about what I wanted to do, why I wanted to be in public office, and making sure that I got her blessing before I got for office. And she has done so much historically. JP is what it is because of her.
Yeah.
There's not a highway cutting through our neighborhood because of the work that she's done. There is tenant organizing in the city, and the way that it looks like is because of what she's done. She is a fighter, but she's also a caretaker.
Mm-hmm.
And she was a caretaker for so many people in that neighborhood. I am so incredibly grateful for everything that she's done for me, for our neighborhood. And, I think that we lost a giant, and we are losing a lot of our giants. And I think that we should, as we reflect on their legacy, really consider that it's our turn and that we have to start stepping into those shoes and taking care of our people. So, rest in power to Ms. Julia Martin, love and care to her family.
I was intentional about deviating, and then it kind of hit me. I didn't want you to, because I know that's a lot to carry when someone is transitioning. But I also saw your support and appreciation of her online. So I wanted to give you space, to name it here publicly. As we get ready to wrap up, Councilor, you talk about the next generation. You talk about this sort of selfless work. You mentioned that, your generation grew up on the internet. There's a generation behind you that sees a lot of what happened with the pandemic, George Floyd, everything that's going on. For those that are on the line, your Carrie Mays, well, she's doing some stuff. For those that are on the line thinking about stepping into leadership, but they see what's going on, what is it that you would say to them about their thought of stepping into leadership?
Well, it depends. Leadership looks a lot of different ways. My invitation to us as a community is to stop looking at public office as the ultimate form of power and impact. It's not. Um, and so I tend to pose questions for people. Why are you running for office? Why office specifically? You know, for example, being an elected official, you're being a member of the legislative body on the city council. This is a legislative body, and so if you want to change laws and you're into policy, right? That's my thing. I'm a heady person. I want to write. I want to read. I want to write policy. I want to change laws. That's why I became an elected official. If you just want to serve your community, you don't have to be in elected office to do that. You don't have to be a city councilor. You don't have to be a state rep to do that. You can serve your community by leading a nonprofit. You can serve your community by doing there's so many ways to step into leadership that isn't public office. And I ask more questions than give advice when people come to me thinking about running for public office. It makes a difference. It makes a difference to have people who come from our communities in public office. And it's also not built to support people like us to be there in public office. And so I think it matters to make decisions based on what we can do when we're in there, what levers we're going into public office to pull, and what kind of supports we have from our community. And sometimes we might get people in our community who should be in public office, and that's our job. We have to make sure that they're ready. We have to make sure that we are behind them. We have to help them build that infrastructure. It's not up to them. It's up to us. We have to take care of our children. We have to take care of our people. We have to make ourselves responsible for other people's children. And you know, living under capitalism, living within the economic system that we live in, the struggles that came with COVID-19, everything, you know, housing insecurity, everything that is happening in the world, I think that our inclination is to move inward, to take care of ourselves, to take care of our families, to make sure that we are okay. But the reality is that we're not going to survive as people if we are not reaching outward toward each other. And so the advice that I would tell people, young people who are thinking about running for public office, is find your people and make sure that they're going to be there to hold you while you are doing it. And also offer myself to be anybody's people who needs it. I have people who I've mentored who are ready to go to public office, and I intend to put all of my support and all of my energy behind them.
That's a good segue into what's next for Councilor Lara after you rest, after you regroup. Knowing you're probably already in something, but what can we look forward to come next from you, ma'am?
Yeah, I am. So, you know, I definitely wanted to take it slow. I don't want to rush. I don't want to rush into the wrong job because I'm trying to kind of like keep the momentum going. And so my plan is for the next few months, I'm working on consulting. I run my own firm. I did before I became into public office. So I just kind of picked that back up. And I'm already working with a couple of local organizations to do DEI work, to do organizational transformation work, to help them really serve their communities in the way that they want to, in a way that's impactful. And I'm also working on my art because now I have so much time while I'm doing this consulting work. I have work to be creative. So I worked on the Estuary Projects, which honored the victims of the Roxbury murders. That was my first solo project. That was in 2019. So it's been a few years, and I've started the process to work on another set of installations, which I'm really excited about. And, you know, in the spring, I will move on to the next exciting thing. So I'm really looking forward to it. But right now we are taking it slow. We're being creative. We're serving other organizations, helping them get on their feet, and then going from there.
I definitely appreciate that. I wanted to share some love with you from Instagram. Brother Rusty said, great job to you. So Rusty, you can't see the comments on here, but says, great work that you're doing. Bia says, who, you know, we're asking women of color to be sacrificial lambs for a system that doesn't love us. And she said not verbatim, but absolutely that. And so I definitely appreciate you, Councilor Lara, coming in and just sharing with us. I wanted to chat with you. And I guess the last thing I'll say is, what is it that you will say to the current council, and then end that specifically to our new Madam President? I'm sure, you know, because of your role and, you know, just access and whatnot, you know, there was some stuff, but what would you say to the council? Well, I don't want to get in trouble because I would ask you to specify to certain ones on the council, but generally, what What is it that you would say on the council that are blatantly promoting equitable policies for Boston? How about that?
It is worth it. The fight, the stress, the newspaper articles, it is worth it. It is worth every single thing that you're going to be able to accomplish to fight for it. I got a lot of slack and I didn't make a lot of friends for pushing people to take votes, to get on the record, to work towards things. And it was worth every single thing that I was able to accomplish because of the impact that it was going to have on poor and working families in this city. And so what I would say to them is that it's worth it. Don't be docile. Don't be quiet. Do not be fearful because of what you've seen happen to others. The fire that you will be put through is absolutely worth it because it is going to transform our city. And so that is what, that would be my advice, because I think that a lot of people don't take action, don't take bold action, don't move policies that might be questionable to those that don't want to see us move forward because they are scared, because they don't think that it's worth the trouble. It is worth the trouble. Do it anyways.
Simple as that.
Yep.
Counselor, thank you. Thank you. It means a lot for you to come. Thank you for the clarity. Belinda, I would encourage you to go back in the beginning, and the counselor clarified a lot of things that would, address some of the comments there. But I appreciate you coming in to share, to be transparent, to share those encouraging words to those that are there. And we hope, the Mother's Board, Conan is in the building. Keep your head up, sis. Mother's Board, be sure to add Councilor Lara and her son to the prayer list. We got a group of about 10 settled senior women. We call them the Mother's Board, and they got a whole little prayer list. And so definitely keep us abreast of what you're doing. And we know that we have not heard the last from you. And so we're looking forward. I said that like a real Bostonian. We're looking forward to hearing about the art too. Can I challenge you to do one thing?
Sure.
Next year. That you draw, you paint or draw?
I'm an installation artist.
Well, I need you to commission somebody that through your you tell them what it should look like, but I need you to just do one picture of your time on Boston City Council.
Awesome.
Some sort of
one reflection piece on canvas. Okay, I can do that.
Y'all heard it here live. And so, pretty soon one of these installations will be Councilor Lara's. Now, tell me, Palante. Tell me what that means, Counselor.
That means onward.
Onward. Palante.
Yes.
Counselor. Mama Java is sending prayers. Ed Shoemaker is in the building. Pastor Marion is sending prayers. Asia says these public roles are not easy and every misstep heightened. Thank you, Counselor, for your efforts. We'll end that right there. Counselor, thank you. Kiss your son on the forehead for me. We see he's at the new school, progressing well.
Yes,
and
second
so
grade.
Second grade?
Yeah.
It seems like you was posting something about kindergarten or whatever a while ago. Not that long ago, rather.
I know. It happens very fast. He's going to be 8 in 4 months. So
pretty soon you'll be posting pictures of his middle school. They don't say graduation no more. Middle school moving on.
Moving on. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. Counselor, thank you. And we appreciate you. And I'm here.
Absolutely. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
That was one of our I was very intentional. This is Civic Engagement Week and Mental Health Mondays. And I know that our counselor has been through a lot. Belinda, I see the comments, and I would just say, when you get a chance, go back and listen. She gave a lot of clarity, a lot of stuff that was in the media. I made a statement to her and said, Counselor, there were some things that were irrefutable. She was like, let me tell you what is refutable. And so, Belinda, I encourage you to go back and look at the beginning when I came straight out and asked her about those things. So tomorrow, as of right now, it's just me, but trust and believe I'm on the phone working between two people to come and fill this slot for Civic Engagement Week. On Wednesday, we're speaking with new counselor Henry Santana. And on Thursday, Wednesday, we're speaking with our new Madam President of the Boston City Council, Ruth C. Lugienne. And also on Thursday, we're speaking with new City Councilor Henry Santana to check in with both of them, her in her new role as the president and Henry in his formal role now as one of two men of color that are on that council. All right, that's it for me this morning. As Mama Java said, UCB, y'all get 90 minutes today. I don't think there's anything else major. Please make sure you tune into the Mayor's State of the City tomorrow. I will keep you abreast if I hear that there are any more slots open for the civic engagement event that's happening on Saturday. And I think that is it. So my sister's in the room, guys. I asked you all earlier to keep her and my other sister in prayers. Misha, good to see you in the room. Glad you're on the mend. And that's it for me. We'll see you guys tomorrow at 9 a.m. here in the Java Cafe. Have a great day, everybody, and we shall talk to you soon. Peace.